Yeah, it's just like right out over there.
Can you get this back?
Yeah, my friends had to go to the Boston 5 times. All right. So, actually have the slideshow now. All right, so welcome to Intro to Extreme Wig Styling. I am Pico. I have been cosplaying and wig styling since 2014, and I do it professionally. So there is such a comical lack of wig education online. It's really sad. It's kind of boomed a little bit these past couple years, but it's still like, so yeah, I'm here to try and help with that. So we're gonna start out, okay. We're going to start with buying wigs. This is actually a lot more important than you think it was. I didn't find this out until earlier this year, but a lot of some of the cheap AliExpress wigs you have to be careful with because the canocolon fiber, I don't know how you say that, I'm so sorry, but it is kind of also comically underregulated, and if you have a lower quality fiber, there is the risk of when you apply heat to it, it will release toxic fumes. So Arta wigs, Epic Cosplay wigs, Casso, all of them, those are the high quality ones. They will not release toxic fumes. However, if you do like cheaper wigs, like me, air purifier and a mask and you're good. So yeah. Now, crimping is a big thing. I know it is very intimidating for a lot of people, and like me included. It was something that like took me a while to get the hang of, and but it's something that's it's essential just to extreme styling because it not only makes the hair just take hairspray better, it has it so you have to have less hairspray. It also helps keep the wig as like tangle free as possible, but not only that, also using some special detangler. And it also helps remove shine. So I have a couple of videos from my Instagram because I love yapping on my story there. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna pop up a hotspot real quick. I am so sorry here. Please load. There we go. Okay. So you don't have to read the block of text on here. I just put this on my story. But basically what you want to do is you want to take along the weft tracks and go vertically instead of horizontally. Whenever you go horizontal, once you drop it, it's all going to fall in a uniform pattern. But when you go vertical, it'll make it so it all falls like at different lengths and therefore also helps hide the crimp marks. After I crimp it, it just looks like that. I don't brush it afterwards. All you do is I don't even plug in my flat iron, I'm going to be so honest. You can just take the crimper and then just go back over it like that, just until you get your desired texture, and then it ends up all nice and fluffy. But yeah. I also do want to say real quick, this is like an open like forum panel. If anyone has a question or comment at any time, raise your hand. I will call on you. You can ask that. You.
Sorry. Yes. Okay. So you said you don't plug it in. Do you heat it at all?
Oh no, I'm sorry. So I just use my crimpers plugged in. I don't plug in my straightening iron because I'll just straighten it basically with the crimper. Temperatures also, I realize I need to go over that. I usually go around 360 degrees. It depends on the wig. Epic cosplays can withstand higher temperatures, but you want to be careful because, yes, Epic cosplay can do 400 degrees, but if you pass over it once with 400 degrees and then do it again, it gets hotter than actually 400 degrees and you could risk melting it. But yeah. You.
Why are you doing this process? Just for volume?
Yeah, so there's a couple reasons. It's not only volume. That is one big thing, but it helps to remove shine. It helps kind of make it look more natural. It helps to kind of keep it less tangled. I don't know the full science behind that, but it works, it works. This wig is tangled because there's so much on the back of my costume, it's going crazy. But also when you have like either teased or crimped hair, it uses significantly less hairspray to actually keep the fibers together, and just overall kind of helps it look neat. I think there was another hand. Yeah.
Do you wet or dampen them at all before you crimp them?
Nope, I do not. I do it almost straight out of the bag. I have had recommended to me, like washing your wigs beforehand. One of my friends has mentioned boiling her wigs to get any like chemicals off, and she said that also helps with some of the fumes from cheaper wigs. I have yet to try that. I have yet to vouch, but I have heard that. Yeah. Did anyone else? Yep.
Now, if you were to do that and then, like, later on, like, say, I remove the crimping and do it all over
So it's a pretty permanent texture change. You can get it out if you try hard enough. Like one thing I have done, there's been in the past I have crimped, so I'll go over it with a straightening iron and then take that weft and pull it down until it cools. Since wigs, opposed to human hair, they set in place whenever they cool down, opposed to being heated up. So that is one way. I have also there's been when I wasn't even trying to get rid of crimp marks and I was just trying to dye a wig, be doing it like in a pot of boiling water and dipping it in a bunch. That also helped remove any crimp marks that were unnecessary. But yeah, it is very permanent. Did anyone else? All right. So this is really important. These don't look very different. They are, I promise. The one that you do want, there's a significant more amount of the kind of zigzag pattern. They are smaller. This was hard to find an example of on Amazon because, they don't really sell as many of the wider tooth crimpers, but the smaller your crimper, basically the easier it is to hide the marks. Once you get a crimper with the larger zigzags, it is significantly harder to make them kind of invisible and blend in as much. So glue is a whole yap fest. Wig stylists and wig styling is really interesting because it's always something that people have found their own alternatives and found their own substitutions for stuff, so there isn't really exactly a definitive this is the glue you need. It can be project dependent and all that. One of my favorites is tacky glue. It is a PVA glue, which is just most school glues. It does take a hot minute to dry and it does go kind of thick. But blow dryer, you're all good. Usually, if I'm making wefts with tacky glue, I will just hot glue them on the rest of my wig, I'm gonna be honest. Unless if it's a hairline, because then I'm okay, I gotta be neat. Tacky glue is good. I've used Mod Podge once a while back. I don't have much comment on it. It's very similar to tacky glue, but it's much thinner, and it is a bit easier to work there. Uhu is good. It is a good glue. It is a very tricky learning curve. It is a clear contact cement, so it dries very fast, and it's kind of you're on a timed run basically to get not get any residue whenever you're making wefts. When you're making wigs, once your weft starts drying, you don't want to touch it at all because that is what causes residue. If you're looking at this Russian glue, that's basically the Russian equivalent of Uhu. I'm just showing it's oh, here's all these fun glues. Uhu is not a flexible glue. If you do need a flexible piece, E6000 is something you can work with. It is another very stinky glue. You do want to ventilate very well for that one. I personally haven't used it on wigs yet. I know a lot of wig stylists that have, but it's on my list. But that's something that'd be really good for if you're making really big drill curls, and it's these are going to be a pain to travel with. Wow, let's make them so they can squish on down and then fit in a suitcase. Silicone, I have used once in the past for drill curls, speaking of. It is a bit different as a working medium since basically you want to coat both sides of it. You want it fully encased in the silicone. The silicone I have used in the past has been from Home Depot or Lowe's, one of the hardware stores. It also very flexible, as you can imagine. I haven't noticed, well actually I don't know how much I can say on this. The wig that I did use silicone on was black, so I didn't notice it getting darker, but black. So definitely do a test run of that. Tombow Aqua is one that I've heard very, very good things about. I actually ordered a ton of it, and it's gonna be at my door after the con for me to try out. I know there's a couple wig stylists that have used that for drill curls. It's similar to Uhu. It is not a PVA or clear contact. I think I looked it up, and it's an acrylic, ester poly something. But the only note about that, it does contain latex, so if you do have an allergy there, be aware of that. And then the next thing I can recommend is using a silicone brush that they usually have them for applying face masks, but they are fantastic for spreading the glue within the wefts. And I also have a silicone mat because I can just wash afterwards and glue doesn't get anywhere. Also very important, I learned this the hard way. These are completely different. The solvents, you want them. They are kind of bad chemicals. However, they make it dry super fast. The solvent-free Uhu makes it so it dries super slow, is nowhere near as strong, and Oh my god, it's not even like 100% clear. Like, I have beef. I have so much beef against that. Here's just some of the additional supplies. Mane and tail, along with crimping, is like a godsend combo for getting your wigs not to tangle. And then when they do tangle, brush it from the bottom up. Virtually gone. It's amazing. There's a canvas wig head I have listed here. I struggle a little bit with the canvas wig heads. You basically just want to get something that's as close to your head size as possible. I will go more in depth on that later. But yeah, any wig head you do want to saran wrap with each wig you style so there's not a ton of hairspray buildup, and it'll help prevent mold. It'll help it prevent getting like ridiculously sticky, and it just overall helps keep your working surface clean. This blue and white thing over here, that is a steamer. That's actually the exact one I have. It's a $20 one from Walmart. I will be honest, I did not understand the steamer hype, and I bought a steamer, and I was like, oh my god, okay. Yeah. This is just basically the only like wig styling tool you can really get that is yeah? Oh, you're good. This is a non-direct source of heat, so it is really convenient and really easy for you to just pick up pieces, hit it with the steamer, and then it'll be perfectly in place. You don't have to worry about curling it or anything. It'll just set like that. The little clamp next to it, that is a table grip for a wig stand. They are a godsend. I prefer them over the tripods. Since they clamp onto a table, they don't have any risk of like falling over, which I've definitely had my share of that happening with. I've had one, actually I've been on the same one since 2014, and it's still running, so very much recommend. Those pins next to it, those are just duckbill pins. Very like convenient for sectioning and all that type of stuff. Recommend those also. Sewing pins are very nice. Whenever you're doing bangs on a wig, I'm sure like a lot of you might have struggled and been like, wow, like there's all these bangs and my fingers are getting so coated in hairspray, like so fast. Pins are fantastic because you can just pin like in place where you want your wig hair and then hairspray there. I have a slide on that also. And then that other thing, that's just a PVC pipe. That's for detachable pieces, which I will also get into later. These are also just more hairsprays and sealant. Got to be is kind of the holy grace of wig styling. Recently, I have been starting using their mousse for any of my glued pieces. And that just kind of helps to put an extra layer of protection after you glue everything down. You're like, oh, how do you not get flyaways, or how is everything not getting like caught in your costume? Usually it's the mousse. I'm sure like there's tacky glue spray too. It does work really well. It does its job fantastic. However, I have noticed it does not fully stop being sticky. I have put a coat of hairspray over top of it, and that has prevented the stickiness. This has tacky glue spray over the just kind of ponytail base to keep it all neat and tidy. The only other thing about tacky glue spray is it is very stinky, and like it will stink up your whole house. You should do it outside if you can, or in a very well ventilated room. This is kind of what I was mentioning with sewing pins and bangs. I do not have a better photo. I wish I did, but that completely slipped my mind. But yeah, it helps minimize the stickiness in your hands. Unfortunately, there isn't like a way to completely get rid of that. I usually have to wash my hands like 4 or 5 times when styling complex wigs because there's just so much glue buildup that gets on my hands. But yeah, so you don't want to rely on hairspray alone for wigs as well. If you're stuck, yep.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're good.
So one step back when you're talking about the moves, just out of curiosity,
Mhm.
because a lot of times with Gatsby hitting with the hairdryer or some sort of heat source, do you find that you have to do that with the moves as well? Hit it with some sort of heat source after you've applied it?
So it's interesting. It's temperamental. I feel like it dries significantly slower than the actual hairspray does. I have hit it with my blow dryer just kind of out of reflex, but I haven't really noticed much of a difference.
Okay.
You just have to shake it up a ton. It is like straight concentrated got to be, so you do have to be careful with that. But it does really help keep everything neat in place.
Okay. Thank you.
But yeah, so you don't want to rely on hairspray alone for wigs. If you do that, if you have a curve or a swoop, it will fall out so fast. I've been there. It's awful. It's so stressful. So if you have a curve that you want to style with, you can either use like a really big curler or just hold it in place with your steamer, and like you just want to have that curled beforehand, kind of in a rough area, and you want hairspray just to like kind of neaten it down and finalize that positioning. And that just kind of helps ensure that your styling lasts for as long as possible. Point cutting is another very interesting and like important thing. Not only it's a professional hair cutting technique. If you go to the salon, I can guarantee they've done this to your hair. It's very simple. I have a video on it, but you want to take a blunt cut piece, which is just if you just chop something off that's blunt cut, and you want to hold it up with two fingers like this, and then take your scissors and like just go like that. This wants to let me in. I do have a video linked just on YouTube that just kind of shows for a couple seconds because visuals I think really help. Love Walmart ads. But I'm here. So just take your scissors, hold your piece with a couple fingers, and just straight like that. I like to, if I can, I will hold that piece away from the wig and snip it over here so a bunch of little hairs don't get stuck in the rest of what I'm styling. It gets very annoying very fast. I keep a broom right next to my station, otherwise it's like a giant hairball and it's like, oh, what happened over here? Yeah. So another really like cool thing I'd like to bring up, I know a lot of people like cosplaying from like games, and like a good amount of media do have figures. 2D references are great. However, if you're able to get a 3D model of something, it allows you to pan all the way around. It's so helpful. It shows so much more than what a drawing could of how something's positioned, because it's like, oh, this looks like it's going like this, but like maybe that spike is actually angled backwards or going by that, and significantly longer than you would have guessed if you just looked at it dead on. If you are into Genshin, Game Fashion Archive does have all the models up to Kirara. Any other games, Sketchfab usually does have them ripped and put on there. It's fantastic. Figures are then my second choice. So this is a really big thing in complex wig styling. This is actually, that is the wig I'm wearing right now. So this is just wire and tape. That's just the plastic stuff that is clear packaging tape, nothing fancy, super cheap stuff. But this is basically how most of your internal structures will go. It's usually based off of this or a couple other things that I do have listed. But yeah, you just want to make like a form out of wires and then fill in the gaps with tape, and then you're good to go in the next step. That's also when you can start getting into like the fun stuff. Like I started a Farina wig, and there's LED strips that run on the inside, and yeah, so they're diffused by sewing batting, which is also another important thing. But yeah, that's something that's also really fun to play with. Wig styling is truly like a form of engineering, especially when you start getting to like the super complex stuff, because it's like, how do I make this work? How do I make this weight get supported? It's a whole big ordeal, and people get so creative with it. This is sewing and quilt batting. It's not only an easy way to add volume, it helps the hair stick better whenever you're doing glued wefts, and it makes it so much easier on wireframes. There's on that light up wig, I think there's 3 layers on the outside of sewing batting, and then 2 on the inside, and then that also really helped diffuse those LEDs as much as possible. The hair did a little bit, but not great. Your kind of like next like really good option is felt. It's much more compressed, but it still does the same like thing of like, oh, this really helps the hair stick, and that's also another really good diffuser if you don't want something that's like really massive and poofy. Yeah?
How are you keeping that stuff to the tape?
So that's with, I have a slide on weft making, but that tacky glue, I may have a photo on this, I may not. I will add that next time I do this panel. Basically, you want to like put so much glue. There's so much glue. You go in little strips. You can kind of see oh, that's not what I wanted. The image on the far right there's like all those white dots. That is glue. There was hair on that section. That's all tacky glue. That wig was entirely made with tacky glue. You want to have just like kind of as much glue as possible, but it's all on the underside. That wig I really needed to hit with tacky spray before I wore it out. I did not realize that at the time, but it's now tacky spray just with some flyaways, but yeah. Airbrushing is another thing. This is not required, I will say. This is kind of like, this is completely optional. There's always workarounds. I've seen some people use eyeshadow for this. I've seen some people take a spray bottle and put paint in it, and then when you're coloring the batting that's underneath all your glued structures, you just spray on the batting with that spray bottle and paint, opposed to investing in an airbrush. Personally, my airbrush is kind of my baby. I love it so much. It made my life so much easier. And not only is it great for like doing shading and that type of stuff, after you finish like a wig or a structure, if you have any glue or like any hairspray that's super visible, you can do something that's actually like called glazing in wigs, where you just match the color of your wig with paint and then just spray right over it, and it's like, oh, no one would know. You don't really need to use special airbrush paint. I use just normal acrylic paint, usually like 50-cent paint bottles from Walmart, gonna be honest. I'll thin it out with either water or isopropyl alcohol, and well, actually, I've done a couple things. If it's a heavier paint, I will use both isopropyl alcohol and water, and then put a little bit of dish soap so you can mix them together, and then thin it out with that. And if it's just like a lighter water-based paint, I will just use straight water, and it's fine. Never had jams. Nothing's ever broken from it. More on airbrushes. Those airbrushes, the $20 ones, those are evil. I have a personal vendetta. They're so bad. I can't. Their battery life, they take all night to charge, and then they die after an hour, and you're like, and then it's like, it takes longer to charge back up, because it's like, oh, we're dead now, right? That is the airbrush on the right that I have. It is a $40 Amazon airbrush. My compressor came with one of my previous airbrush kits that I forgot to clean out one time and then broke it. Life. I do really recommend that one, though. It is fantastic. It never failed on me. So for the wire, back to the wire and tape method. Wires are a big thing. A lot of wig stylists do really like aluminum armature wire. I have used this a couple times. The armature wire is what's shaping my bow right now. I don't think I really got the right millimeter for like super big structures. I have about 2 millimeter or about 12 gauge aluminum wire, and I do find it is not sturdy enough to hold like super like tight drill curls or like super like big structures. But for anything that's smaller or not like super weight bearing, it is very convenient. It's cheap, convenient, and really lightweight. My favorite for like really big structures, like the Farina wig I showed earlier, I went to Lowe's and I got some 16 gauge, that's not right. It's like a 12 gauge solid copper wire. You want to make sure it's solid. If it's stranded, it will not be sturdy at all. But it works fantastically. It's still malleable. It will hurt your hands a little bit because it is like super, super strong wire. But it will not fail on you. It doesn't bend out of shape at all. For like little tiny pieces, like little like ahoges that stick up or whatever, or like tiny like front drills, or like anything that's small, not very light, like weight bearing, I'll use 16 gauge copper wire from Walmart. It's in like the jewelry making section. Also has never failed me, and I'm sure it's cheaper online, but I just keep forgetting. That is the wire I used on Farina. It's just like a solid 12 gauge copper tri-wire, so it's like, oh, you get 3 times the amount of feet that you buy. Let's go. And that's just the armature wire I was talking about. Sizing your wig head is incredibly important. Confession. So this wig is actually like half an inch too big for me, and because of that, since it is super glued and super like heavy down and all that, it does have a bit of sliding issues at times. I have a velvet wig grip, which, by the way, they're godsends. I don't know the exact the exact reason they work, but they will keep your wig in place. My Farina wig was genuinely 5 pounds. Did not slide at all during the con with a wig grip. But wig, just sizing your head. You want to make a form. You just want to put all your hair up in a wig cap. You want to wrap your head in saran wrap, and then wrap your head in packaging tape. And then this is easier if you have a friend, but you can just draw out where your hairline is, and you can just kind of like take it off like a helmet. And then you want to cut like around the edges, and then you're good to just basically stuff that. I like to sometimes tape it on my wig head first before stuffing it. Cut like a little like cross in the back, and then stuff so much like fiber fill in there so it's nice and taut, and then you're good to tape it back closed. Sizing your wigs, like I would just mention how I missized this. It's very important, but this is not as important if you're not doing like a high ponytail wig like I have right now. If you don't have like a like glued hairline all around, this isn't as crucial. It's something you still should do to an extent. I noticed for a lot, I have a very tiny head, so sorry. The ear tabs usually like conflict with my ears, and they'll usually get like they'll make this they fold down, and it's painful and annoying. And if you have any hairlines on your sides when their ear tabs don't fit, they will not lay right and they will not look good. So usually if I'm just fixing ear tabs, I will straight up just cut through them. Sometimes I do have to cut the back strap and then hot glue it back just to connect it so my ears actually fit. If you want to do like a full like proper sizing, the best method that you can to get it as exact as possible is to just rip out those lefts entirely. So you just have like the rose net, like the rose netting, they're like these straps. You want to take like it onto your sized wig head and then pull down so they're tight. You don't want them loose, and then hot glue them in place. Once that's great. Other things you can do, I have admittedly just like snipped into a wig and then just sewed it back together at the bottom. So there's just like a big dart at the bottom. You can also extend wigs that way and make them larger. For some wigs, like Arlecchino has styled, I actually opted to do a hard glued base first, so all the hair was down uniformly, cut another dart in it, and then glue the hair on top of itself since it was already solid. I do have a couple sided hard glued bases, we'll get to that soon. But yeah, that's really, really important if you want it to like look the same way it does in your wig head. That is another video. This is just like kind of what I'm talking about with sizing, just like a wig cap right there. There's that. This is also one of the wig styles I love. They've got great tutorials. Love it. So there's just kind of what I mean. It's like they take off all of the wefts and then just glue it. I have seen some people only take out like the bottom portion, like if you go like over here, they would only remove like the bottom half of the wig, so like all the top up here is untouched, but the bottom they can just size down. That's also another method that works great. I'm just gonna, wow, there we go. So here's kind of the big part. This is when you start getting to the scary, let's chop off all of the hair actually. Let's make this like whatever's going on here. It's not as hard as it looks. It's incredibly intimidating. I remember doing my first one and like this is so scary. If you were scared, that's completely justified. It is, right. So basically what you want to do, you want to take your base wig, you can either tie off what you want as bangs, or you can cut the bangs off entirely. And then if you do cut off the bangs entirely, just like do like the full glued ponytail or whatever you're doing, and then make an internal structure that you can reattach the bangs to. I like doing that in select cases because I do find it does make it a little bit cleaner because you don't have to worry about lining up like your glued hairline up here exactly to what your bangs are. But basically, you just want to cut off all the hair. You want to leave like roughly ½ an inch to an inch so you can just absolutely pack this through like full of glue. Oohoo is my favorite for this since it dries so fast. But you want to take your silicone brush and you just want to spread that all through so it is literally a helmet. Yeah, so you want to do that, and then I know for Oohoo, it becomes like dry to the surface after like 4 or 5 minutes, but you do want to let it sit for a couple hours to make sure it is completely hardened. Tacky glue takes much longer to dry. It is significantly cheaper because you don't have to get it imported, but it does take longer to dry. I usually leave this ones overnight after blow drying them, but yeah. So the next big step of this is once you have a hard glue base, we're like, we gotta put hair back on this. That's kind of important, I'm not gonna lie. There are two options you have. You can do either a soft glued hairline, like this one is soft glued, and it's comfortable to wear. It will like, just form to like how your neck goes or whatever. And then you also have hard glued hairlines, which are completely solid, but they're kind of better if you have a really specific shape you're going for. Any like glued hairlines that's like up in the front, I will do as hard glued because it's just so much easier to get like that perfect like anime style shape. This is just a video on that. Basically just for like hard glued hairlines, you want to go from like the end and pull like glued down. I think they're doing a soft glued right now, but you just put glue in the middle for the soft. Just like that. If you're using any glues like that, he does both sides. I personally do not like doing both sides. I think it shows a little bit and I don't like it. But yeah, that's just how you do that. Hard glued is basically the same concept, except you just do it at the very end opposed to doing the middle. All right, so internal structures. This is a big one. I did this in my Arlecchino wig. And it's kind of, you look at characters and you're like, why is your hair like that? That is not natural. That is very strange, right? So you have this crazy monstrosity on the left. That is all foam clay. There's many things you can use. I have used sewing batting in the past and just stacked it up a bunch. It's not solid, so it is kind of hard to glue around. You can use wire if you'd like. However, I'm not really sure like which cases would offer that. There's definitely some wigs that would be better like that, but generally foam clay is easiest for me. There's like, the overtime doesn't really look like it has much uniformity, but if you look here, she's got this obscene thing going on with her bangs. Like the bangs look like they start from the crown of her head, which is actually crazy. Girl, are you balding early? So it's just, I have these two lines because basically my idea was making a shelf kind of to lay hair around, and the rest is lumpy because I'm not a sculptor with foam clay. I'm just like slapping it on there and be like, me. But yeah, as long as you have like that kind of really distinct kind of shelf area, it is a lot easier. Like you can cover up all these bumps so easy. Detachable pieces. These, at first I was like, you don't really need to do that. And then I tried traveling with a wig and I was like, oh my god, yeah I do. So this is another part of the yapping about engineering and wigs. There's so many ways you can do detachable pieces, and there's so many like things that people have come up with. One of my favorite ones is neodymium. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Magnets, they are very, very strong. That's actually how these little fish things attach. But it just makes it like super easy for you to like kind of take things on and off. There's also a magnet up in this ponytail. Yeah, sorry, I just saw.
I just had a question about like the order of operations.
Mm-hmm.
So would you start with like crimping the wig, and then if you were styling it like that, then cut it all off, and then glue it down, and then reattach it as wet?
Yes, so you can. Yeah, you can crimp it after you cut it off. It's just significantly more annoying, and then it's like you have to worry about falling out pieces and all that. Yeah. So magnets are a godsend among this world, I feel. But yeah, so this ponytail is a PVC pipe with some foam and then a cardboard roll around so it fits, and then a magnet on top. I have more on PVC pipes and a couple other slides, but yeah, they're not very expensive. I have like a 50-pack from Amazon for like $5. This is one method I think is super cool. It is taking just like disposable bottle caps, cutting them off, and then using those for like low tide ponytails. You just kind of like, it gets hidden inside of like a glued structure, and then they're just gluing wefts right around that bottle cap, and it just twists on and it's super convenient. And then here's the PVC pipe, like ramble. So PVC pipes, they are very interesting to me. Yeah?
Question about the magnets.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you put them on the inside of the wig, or do you put them on the outside?
That is a personal preference thing. That also kind of depends. The thicker your magnets are, the stronger hold they have. These ones are not very thick, so they don't have a very strong hold, so I did opt to put them on the outside. But if you do have like something that needs to be a very seamless transition, put it under everything. So PVC pipes, they're really cheap. I use a ratchet cutter, which is like this big tool. However, I fear that most wig stylists actually use a saw because all my cuts are super uneven. I do not know how to fix it, but it's fine. It works. So I love using PVC pipes. For like, I've seen some cosplayers bust out like all this Warbler and stuff, and I'm like, man, Warbler is expensive. I don't want to pay for Warbler. So this is just hot glued onto a square of craft foam, which is then hot glued onto a glued base. I have a wire over top of it, not because I was just nervous about the stability, but that was just more of I wanted that to be as solid as of a helmet as possible. And also that wire does help me get this to shape it closer to my actual hairline. The wire is not necessary. If I had to go back on this, I would have bought metal strapping from a store. It lays completely flat and it's bendable, and you can screw it into a PVC pipe if you are worried about stability. I genuinely think this ponytail is 5 pounds. It feels like it's 5 pounds. It makes everything slide back. And this is just hot glued on, and there's been no issues with it wobbling, nothing at all. So that's very good. XPS foam is the other thing I want to talk about. It is kind of a pain to use. It's really easy to carve. However, it is a very temperamental foam, which means you cannot use any harsh glues. You cannot use hot glue. So basically, I ignored that, and I used Uhu, and it did disintegrate a little bit. It wasn't awful because, it got caught up, it was covered over with sewing batting. But if you did really want a fast drying glue, I hate solvent-free Uhu, but it would not dissolve that foam, and hypothetically it could work. If you also wanted to, you could use tacky glue, put some tacky glue on there, and then put packaging tape so it holds it in place until that's dry. And just XPS foam is fantastic because it's very easy to carve. It's also very easy to accidentally cut yourself while carving, so watch out for that. But you just use a utility knife, and it kind of cuts like butter. They sell them in huge sheets that are like 4x8 at the hardware store, but they also have mini project boards, which will fit in your car very easily because they're just like these 2x2s. They're great, very cheap, would recommend. And then these are just some of the wig stylists that I really, really love. All of these wig stylists post their own tutorials and videos and processing and how they do this. Feel free to take photos of this. I think I probably will link this slideshow in my Instagram as well if anyone needs. But yeah, this is just kind of, if anyone else has any other questions, anything else I want to go, you want me to go over, this is the time for that. Yeah. Yeah.
I just wanted to say, all the way back to the glues,
Mm-hmm.
you use a silicone adhesive on a lighter colored wig, it will yellow on
Yeah, the DAP one, they do have a non-yellowing one. Thank you for bringing that up. I completely forgot. It's been so long since I've used it, but that is very important. Yeah, you do not want it yellowing. None of the other glues that I have listed there have had issues with yellowing, but if you're using anything to seal your wig, I have seen some people use spray paint sealer for instead of tacky glue spray, which I still have to try. I've tried acrylic sealer, however, that one is not flexible at all. So if you try bending the wig at all, it turns into this white fine powder and explodes everywhere. Not good. I have not tried the spray paint sealer yet, but I have heard good things. I have to do more research on that. I will probably yap about that later on my Instagram if I do end up doing it. But yeah, that's just another option. You just want to make sure that nothing is yellowing. Yeah. Yeah?
So I usually have to take I've only done this once or twice, but I usually have to take wefts out of the wig because my head's really small too.
Yep.
Is the hair on the weft supposed to go with it when you take it out? You know how it's a string and then the hair? Is that supposed to all come out when you do that, or just the string part?
The hair is supposed to come with it. So basically the way that wefts are made, it is just hair that they run through a sewing machine and then they flip it so it folds and then run through a sewing machine again. And that's basically just how you make wefts in general. You hypothetically can do that at home if you put tape in between them so your sewing machine doesn't get filled with hair. However, I fear for my sewing machine because she is old and cranky and I do not want hair in her ears. But yeah. Yeah?
You probably answered this earlier and I didn't catch it, but for creating wefts, what would you suggest using for that? Would you suggest
Mm-hmm.
using yarn, using other synthetic hair to create it? Obviously, you can't just you know what I mean? What would you suggest using to create wefts that you then go on and recreate?
Yeah, so usually I will use character wigs sometimes, they're pre-made, but I will usually go for a generic long, like 40-inch, just colored wig, because that way, if there's any layers, I can cut those and have a bunch of extra hair. So I will like to do that. Epic Cosplay also does individually sell wefts. If you'd like to, you can also just buy a second wig to go with it, so you make sure you have enough hair. You can use yarn. I have some wig stylists, like seen wig stylists use yarn, and it's super cool. It's super awesome. I think a lot of people that I've used yarn for their entire wigs, they'll use like a crochet hook and go through like a full like meshed wig cap that has like holes in it, so it's just like looped through and knotted instead. That's also kind of, if any of you guys are interested in tinsel, that's kind of also the same concept. You take a very small hook and then you loop it through the weft, and you gotta pull it through and basically do a slip knot with it. But yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Is anyone else? I fear I do not have much else to yap about. I'm thinking just like about a couple other examples of wigs. Wigs are like, it's kind of hard to do a lot of like teaching on them in a vague way because so many of them are so unique and like in such a way that it's, wow, it's like, how does one like do this? Or like, how would you get this to work? I think like one wig that I've been like thinking about doing for a while and like just thinking about methods is like, for example, if you're doing like K Angel from Needy Streamer Overload, I can pull up a photo of her real quick. But she's got like these giant, like big twisty things. And like as you can imagine, those are going to be awful to travel with. I have seen like a couple wig stylists make like a method where it slides into the wig, kind of like a hook and eye concept. One of my other ideas, you could PVC pipe this one, but that's kind of tricky because they're thin. Magnets was something I was thinking about, but I don't think they'd be strong enough. And then the other idea that you can do is you can take screws and bolts and put them together so you can actually literally screw it on the wig. Yeah, so wigs, they're so cray-cray. It's like literally just like sculpting like a fine art. Yeah. Just gonna go back into that. Yep.
So when you use the magnets to attach things, are you just gluing the one half to the wig base and then?
Yeah. So yeah, I usually hot glue it. You want to be careful with that because I have heard that there is a risk of demagnetization with hot glue. I've heard 2-part epoxies are really good for magnets. However, like, you know, if you're doing something like XPS foam, that's kind of a harsh glue. That's a risk. The other thing you can do is you can take the XPS foam piece, take some felt, and then sew it around that. So then you can put the glue on the felt opposed to the XPS foam, and it pretty much just eliminates that previous issue. Yeah. Yep.
Does it have to be 2 magnets, or can you do like a metal base in your wigs and then put like the magnet in the ponytail so it's like
Hypothetically, you could do that. It may not have as strong of a hold. I have not tried that out, but every time I do my magnets out, they love to go straight to my scissors. So I think that definitely could work. It depends on how heavy the piece you're talking about is, but I'd say so, yeah.
That's what my husband does with his working figures. He has metal on the bottom, magnets on the bottom, figures, and flip it upside down, and they won't fall out.
That's very smart. I may actually pondering that one. I may steal that technique.
Like metal from like Lowe's, and then you just press it.
Oh yeah. And also, like I was mentioning metal strapping earlier. If you were to put that under a wig, that would definitely magnetize, I feel. Anyone else? Yep.
I often have trouble, even with just like, not necessarily myself, just like long waves with them sliding with everything. Are there any good ways to help with that other than just making sure that like you have like the cap appropriately sized or like a glue or something?
Yes. So actually, I have a velvet wig grip from Amazon. I'm not entirely sure the science behind them, but they make your wigs practically just, it's like they're glued on your head. Like this thing like will not move, and this is half an inch too big for me. They're like $5. I think they're actually selling some at the Cosplay Mom stand in the vendors hall as well. I did see them there. The silicone ones, I have not heard great things about. They do not grip as well. The velvet ones are what you want, and they just got a piece of Velcro and just straight to your head. But yeah. Yep.
With those things that you said would be a nightmare.
Mhm.
Could you use
Oh yeah.
a slinky, and then you just collapse it for like half off.
100%. I think like it's just like there's such a thin attachment up there that makes it a little bit difficult. I'm very lenient towards doing like a thinner PVC pipe on that one and just like making an internal like structure there. That like I guess like the ones I did see where they slide in, that one was really cool. I wish I put that in my slideshow. Now I'm thinking about that, but good to know for later. Um, but yeah, so that's just kind of where it just starts going into like wigs are so tricky and so difficult, and there's such like some of them are so specific. Like for example, if you're doing a rose quartz wig from Steven Universe, she's got like this massive just like bump of hair and like all like these twisties. It's like then you have to like go and like be like, how am I gonna do this? I have seen some people like for rose wigs specifically made just like tubes and then wrap hair around them and then make it like just a little bit of hair on the bottom so it's illusion that the whole thing is a curl, but it's not. There's like a tube inside. So yeah, that's just like where it's such a like a base like project to project basis of making wigs. If no one else has any like questions or comments or anything, I am also very like we can wrap the panel up early. I've never
Sorry, I know I keep asking.
No, I'm so glad I
I'm really bad with scissors,
Mhm.
but I'm pretty good with razor combs. Is that valid?
That is completely valid. That is actually one thing I have had recommended to me before because they are much more sharp and precise. I haven't tried it yet before because I have actual like motion like cortex issues, so I'm afraid I'm gonna be like ooh
I've
ooh
used them
ooh.
on like wigs
Yeah.
and on my own hair, like on my
Mhm.
bangs when they get too long and stuff like that. And I just think there's so much. Typically, I mean, it obviously goes for the style of the wig you're going for. Like I usually do like male characters with messy hair, like
Mhm.
Deku or like someone from Haikyuu or something like that, and I'll be like, it's just easier that way because then it comes out really nice and like messy. So I
Mhm.
guess it wouldn't be great for like maybe like neater wigs, but
Yeah.
it works.
Point cutting too is something like if I have straight bangs like these ones, I do like to point cut them a little bit because it just helps thin and make it a little bit more realistic. I see your hand back there. What's up? Mhm. Mhm. Oh yeah, no, Sally's great tools. Professional like hairstyling tools are also fantastic for wig styling. Highly recommend. If you also like, I know you kind of have to have really sharp scissors for wigs. Getting a scissor sharpener, best investment of my life. They also kind of help get some of the glue off my scissors, so I'm like, double whammy. I'll take that. But yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, they do make those. Mhm.
Yeah, you can like they usually the ones I use they have like a handle so you can like so it's not like it's like a phone with a handle and you can just like kind of go like that with it.
Mhm. All right. Yep.
How do you feel about like doing like spiky like big volume
Ooh, those are so exciting. Okay, so that really depends on the specific character. If they have like this massive thing like on their head, like say some of the My Hero Academia characters really have massive spiky things. I do like doing internal like spike structures. You can also use EVA foam if you're like a model of the spikes you want. You can do that in Blender. That's a whole other skill though. That's kind of intimidating. Foam you can also carve. But then my other thing is just it's so much point cutting and steaming, and then just like kind of using model references. But yeah, pretty much. All right. Yep.
I'm curious, you probably already went over this. I
No, you're good.
but curling hair, like we curl it like the plastic hair for plastic wigs,
Mhm.
so like you can take plastic like hair, then you curl like is there like certain things that are like different?
Yeah, so curling irons don't work as well in wigs because of the fact that they set by cooling down. So what I do, I have like an actual like roller pack that like you're meant to just stab through your hair. If I have not fully styled a wig, I will do the roller pack after crimping it, and I will put it in a pot of boiling water or dump boiling water on it.
Okay, so it's like the whole like boiling water.
Yeah, if you cannot put your wig in boiling water, like say you already started styling it, you can also put it in rollers and then just hit it with a steamer. And then the other thing you can do is that if you heat it up with a straightening iron and then take a curling iron that is not on and cool, after you straighten it, you could wrap it around there and then just basically have it act the same way. Yeah. Yeah, of course. I hope this is helpful. I'm so sorry this kind of like did.
This was so helpful.
I'm so glad. If anyone wants my Instagram as well, if you guys DM me, I am always happy to yap about wigs. But I have business cards as well.
I know, we were like,
We
we
have
want
the
to get your
stack.
Instagram. Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Instagram.
Yes,
Yep.
we're here.
No,
Thank
I
you,
am.
friends.
This is my first time like ever doing a panel, so I'm like, this is like, this is so foreign. I don't know how to do time management or like I don't know how
You did
long.
so amazing. Thank you so much.
I'm glad,
Yeah, no,
of
this
course.
is really cool. This is like the panel I was looking forward to the
I'm
most. Like,
so happy to hear
yeah,
that.
okay, so I'm actually a hairstylist. I recently started, but like I've been wanting to do so much cool stuff with wigs, but I haven't gotten into it. So
Yeah.
having like a tutorial for that is so nice.
I'm so happy to hear that too, though, because it's like whenever you start getting wig styling, at first it's like, okay, yeah, this is kind of like hairdressing. But
Yeah.
then once you start seeing like good hairlines and stuff, where you're cutting off of the hair, you're like,
Yeah.
pause. What happened here? Like, how did we skip some steps, guys?
What's your Instagram?
Oh, so I have them on my business cards.
Oh, awesome.
It is
Okay, very
Astro
nice.
Candy with a 0 and a K. But yeah.
Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. This
Yeah,
is
of course. No, I'm so glad this is helpful. I was really worried that it wouldn't end up being like helpful to anyone, and I just sit here and kind of look like an idiot. So
No, it's hugely helpful.
I'm so glad.
Great.
Next time I do this, I'm definitely gonna make note of the fact that this. Oh wow, that kind of was actually an hour. That felt like 20 minutes to me. I think it's.
Yeah, in the
Anxiety
moment,
speed.
It doesn't feel like it's that
No.
long, but then you actually look at the clock and you're like, wow.
Yeah, I definitely like. If anyone also has any suggestions or any other stuff and questions, I will probably add those in later. And if I do this panel at other conventions, just have more good info to put in and be like, wow, I forgot to slide that in there the first time. We need that. But yeah. So
That's really helpful.
Thank you.
yeah, of course. Yeah, I'm so glad you guys enjoyed it.
Hopefully, if my friends come next year, I can get them in wigs because
I'm trying so hard to get my friends into this.
Okay, so I like the idea of doing all the wig styling and stuff, or like at least styling their hair. But I don't have much hair to style, and ever since they moved Tekko to July, I'm not too amped about wearing a wig.
Oh my, I remember when it was in March. That's still like crazy. It's like, oh, back in my day. But yeah, no, they're so
Yeah.
sweaty. I will say the only thing like the downside to glue bases is that there's no ventilation in them.
Oh, yeah.
So
No,
I will say if you have like heat intolerance, you do want to be careful with that.
Yeah, that's why I'm trying to get other people to wear the wigs that I make because
Hold on.